Yeah. Pull that out there. Come on in, hey there, welcome. I'm asking everyone to sign in. We've got some paperwork for you.
Hey guys. Well, all right. What you got to get signed in?
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Now, just to be clear, if you're here to learn the buying process in 2024 and if it's a good idea or not, you're in the right room. If that is not why you're here, enjoy lunch and then probably go somewhere else. That's what we're here to do, okay? My name is Chris Pappalardo.
Sorry.
Well, you know, I'm related to the guy. But yeah, my name is Chris Pappalardo, and I am. Come on in. We're just getting started. I'm really blessed to work. I partner with a lot of amazing people. You've got KG from our team here, Luke, Melissa, Shawanda, and we've also got some other amazing people. A lot of y'all heard from Debbie. She's our operations manager. You know, she's our client concierge. And we've got our friends from Moving Mortgage here. We're very passionate because owning a home is not for everybody. However, it's for most people because it is the quickest, fastest way to build wealth in this country and leave a legacy for others. And a lot of people don't think they can afford it or don't know how to do it. And as agents, what you may not know is our number one job, our oath, is to be your fiduciary. Now, if you don't know what a fiduciary is, this is very, very important. Because as a fiduciary, it means you have to put your needs above ours. So we're consultants, which means by getting you the best price in the house, a lower price in the house, we actually technically make less money. But that's the job. As fiduciaries, our goal is to get you the best deal and make sure you're protected, whether you buy or not. And we're passionate about that. Our entire team, our goal is to leave you better than we found you. That's it. What you do is up to you. Our job is to give you the information, the data. Luke is going to be presenting today. Been really blessed. He got into real estate in 2016. He moved up here to start a church in 2017. He started with me and my wife, with our team, and with one child. He now has 3. He has personally sold over 340 homes, $66 million in home sales. However, he's also a steward of building and protecting wealth. He owns 3 rental properties. He saved his money. He also owns another company that does fencing. And he's also a founding member and an elder of his church here in the area. He lives and breathes being a fiduciary, meaning this is about you and only you, what you need. And that's what our team does. So without further ado, I'm going to let Lou take it away. Thank you all for coming and being here. Hope we can lead you better than we found. All right?
All right. The only thing worse than introducing yourself is being introduced by someone else. So, all right, I want to give you kind of a lay of the land of where we're going today. A couple of things. First, we're going to talk about the value of homeownership. Just overall, I want you to get a picture of, even in the first year, how much value you can receive by owning a home. Secondly, I noticed a lot of you are first-time home buyers. Congratulations. Thank you for taking the first step. We're going to go through the process of buying a home from where you sit right now to when you get your keys. That way you know everything that will be coming at you. And then we've got my friends, Kyle and Melia here. Fun fact, I've known Melia since high school. Don't ask her any high school stories about me, please. I'm much different than I was in high school. And they are here to talk about financing options, maybe first-time homebuyer programs, down payment assistance programs that you could qualify for. And they're also going to be here where if you want to see if you could get approved today to see what you could potentially afford to buy, they're here to do that today. So that's kind of the outline of where we're going. If you've got a smartphone, there's a QR code here on the screen. Feel free to take that. It is the same information that is on this sheet of paper. So if you have your packet with you, go ahead and open this sheet of paper. Also, you want to download the app because you can take this exercise home with you and play around with the price points you're actually looking at. Okay, I'm gonna get my big head out of the way so you can actually see it. So we're gonna run an example on the value of homeownership right now. Okay, so this is gonna be a little interactive. I've got the app on my phone. So when you buy a home, there are 3 different ways that you will get value from owning a home. Okay, the first thing is appreciation. So the home that you buy today, in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and I've got a slide that'll show this to you in just a little bit, your home is going to appreciate in price, meaning the value of that home is going to go up.
Everybody got the QR code, because I'll move to the slide. Everybody got the QR
Everybody
code?
good that wants
Good?
it? We can get it to you at the end too if you didn't get it.
All right.
So you have appreciation. You also have what's called a principal balance pay down. So you get a double whammy for owning a home if you've got a mortgage on it, because the price of your home, the value of your home is going up, and what you owe on the home is going down over time. So when we talk about building wealth, you get both of those at the same time, an increase in your price and a decrease in what you owe. And then the third thing that a lot of people don't talk about is one of the things that the government likes to do is they want to incentivize things that are good for the country. And they think one of the things that's good for the country is people to own real estate. So there are tax advantages and tax benefits that you can get from owning a home. So all 3 of those at the same time. So let's do the exercise here. You'll see here on the page here, we're going to start, if you want to fill this out, we'll start with a purchase price. Let's just put in there $250,000.
On the bottom of the app, you'll see the value of homeownership. Push that section on the app if you got it. And you just follow along with Luke's thumb.
Yeah, so there should be a value of homeownership back there.
You have to hit the calculator button at the bottom.
Calculator.
Hit calculator and then
Value of homeownership.
value of homeownership.
All right, everybody,
Calculator, value of homeownership.
everybody with me who wants to be with me on that? Perfect. All right, so on that projected home price, let's everybody write on this $250,000. $250,000. All right, and on the line under that, you'll see average appreciation rate. Anybody want to take a guess of what the average appreciation rate over the past 30 years has been?
I want to raise my hand.
No, you cannot answer. Anybody not a real estate professional want to guess on what the average appreciation rate is?
4%.
4%. Did it say it on the sheet?
It does, it's on the screen.
Come on, man.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Sorry. No,
Had
that's
to
my
do
fault. Average appreciation, we're gonna go 4%. For the record, if you look at projections from some of the national companies, those projections are anywhere from 3% to 6% for the year 2024. I just saw one come out the other day that a lot of them have revised their appreciation rates up this year. So you'll see that, but we're gonna use 4% just as a example. All right, now on your mortgage amount. Your mortgage amount is going to be your purchase price minus your down payment. What's the lowest down payment we can get on a conventional loan? 3%. All right, so 3% is your down payment. So your mortgage amount would be the $250 times 0.97. It's $242,500 on the mortgage amount line there. And we're going to add all this up at the bottom in just a second. $242,500. So that is the amount of the mortgage. That's the amount that you will be financing for this purchase. All right, interest rates. Let's talk about interest rates. Everybody's favorite thing to talk about right now, interest rates. If you've been watching at all on the news, you've probably heard something about interest rates. Give me a well-qualified buyer with 3% down conventional interest rate. Just for illustrating.
6.75.
Okay, so we're going to say 6.75 on that. So you see their interest rate, put 6.75. And the term of that, let's run this on a 30-year term. All right, then you're going to have your total interest paid first year. I will run that math for you. because you guys did not come here expecting to do math problems, so I will run that for you. And your tax bracket, I will tell you this, if you're between $40,126 and $85,525 annual income, you can put 22% there. If you're anywhere between that and $163,000, you can put 24% there. If you're anywhere between 163 and 207, you can put 32% there, or if any of our friends here are more than that, for illustrative purposes, you could put 35%. Okay, so we're going to run this on this example as if your total family income is between $40,000 and $85,525. Obviously, this is going to be a rough number. The reason why we wanted you to have the app is you can actually go in and put your own stuff in there afterwards so that you can get a better idea. But this is just for an illustration. So just to recap, $250,000 purchase price with a $7,500 down payment for 30 years at a 6.75% interest rate, 4% average appreciation, and a tax rate of 22%. Those are the assumptions that we're going to operate off of here. All right, so if you're using the app at the bottom, you can hit view results. Otherwise, I will tell you. So year one appreciation for you. So on that bottom line there on appreciation, annual appreciation, year one, you can put $10,000. $10,000, there you go. So the idea is if you buy a home today, $250,000 with 4% appreciation, you can safely assume that next year at this time, on average, your house will be worth $10,000 more this time next year than it is right now. Everybody follow me so far? Okay? So principal reduction. So principal paid year one, based on the assumptions that we made, you will have paid down $2,584 off of your mortgage. So on that second line on the bottom there, you put $2,584. And then an estimate of the tax benefits. Now, caveat, I'm not an accountant, not a CPA, consult your accountant. But as a rough idea, so don't come here next year and say, Luke, I got $3,200. You told me $3,500. But basically, on the assumptions we made, your tax savings year one, with writing off your interest, potentially even might be a little more than this, writing off some of your closing costs, is $3,584. So again, you should have $10,000 plus the $2,584 of principal reduction, plus the $3,584 of tax savings. Anybody done that math already? So on the total number there, $16,168. And that's in year one of owning a $250,000 house. So you can see how over time, extrapolate that over 30 years, right? Your pay down will continue to go, your house will continue to appreciate. There are continual tax benefits from being able to own a home. That's a lot of wealth that you could build up over a 30-year mortgage, simply by doing probably what some of you who are renting are already doing, which is paying to live somewhere. So that's why when we say we're passionate about building wealth through real estate, $16,000, if I told you, hey, come back to me next year and I'll hand you $16,168 in cash after you got over thinking that I was a scammer trying to get you to show up somewhere and with nefarious aims, you would probably take that deal, right? And that's what we can accomplish simply in 1 year of homeownership.
Look, I'm curious, when you pay rent at the end of the year, how much rent do you have left? How much of your rent do you get to keep?
Anybody want to answer that?
So if you make a mortgage payment, at the end of the year, you now have $16,168. You see the difference? And that's just year one. How much rent do you have left?
I don't want to be a gadfly, I own the home.
Yeah.
The home, just so everybody, if anybody, I'm not a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
If your mortgage is $2,500,
Mhm.
that's PIP and everything, right? You're paying $1,600 for something comparable. That's $900 you're not spending a month, that could go into some other investment.
Absolutely.
So let's just make sure everybody
But
knows
again-
everything about everything.
Well, and again, one of the reasons why it's good to talk to somebody who's a professional is that we can look at your situation and like Chris said, it may not be a good idea for you.
Yeah.
Especially
That's the
with
goal.
I was licensed for 30 minutes twice, so I don't want to be the.
No. Like I said, not everybody needs to own a home. However, if you can buy a home for what you're paying in rent, that's what we're here to help you figure out. As fiduciaries, the goal is to help you build credit wealth. We've told plenty of people living with family and friends, like, take that deal as long as you can and save your money.
Yep.
Not everybody is supposed to own a home.
There is more than one way to build wealth.
Yep.
Real estate is a way. It's our job to look under the hood to see if it's the right way, one of the right ways for you, okay? So hopefully, if you've been thinking about it, that might have got you a little excited. Let's talk about the home buying process. The home buying process. So from where you sit right now to owning a home, how do we get there? What we would always recommend folks do is to figure out where you're at financially. So I've got a slide up here talking a little bit about the pre-approval process. Now, I'm a hobbyist loan officer. In other words, I don't do this. I'm going to let them take most of this later. But let me give you a couple of steps. If you're thinking, man, I'm about to get ready to start the process, what are some things that you can do to be ready? First of all, the most fun part of the process is collecting all your required documents. Okay, your tax returns, your W-2s, your pay stubs. I would recommend if you're thinking about buying a home in 2024, probably a good idea when you get those month to month, put them in a file somewhere because these fine people are going to ask you for them. And then the people that work with these fine people are going to ask you for them over and over and over. So if you have them in a file ready to go, that would be helpful. Okay. You're also going to need those documents when you submit a loan application. Loan application is going to look at your whole scenario. And if you work with a great loan officer like these fine folks here, they're going to be able to run different scenarios with you, different loan programs, different amounts of down payment to kind of make sure they tailor it to your situation. So you're going to review loan programs. You're going to review down payment amounts, terms, rates. Again, earlier we operated on the assumption of a 3% down loan for 30 years. That may not be best for you. You may not want 30 years. Maybe you want 15 years. Maybe you want 20 years. Maybe you want to put a little bit more down. They'll be able to review all of that with you.
20.
With some loan. Do you guys have a 20-year option? 15, 20 year? Yeah, 15, 20, 30, yep. And then you're going to obtain what's called a pre-approval letter. Pre-approval letter. Now, pre-approval letter is going to tell you, here is the amount that we can safely go look at houses when you go out to shop, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, the reason why we want to get that amount is there are two types of homes that your real estate professional is going to want to take you to. Okay? Houses that you want to buy, essentially, and houses that you can buy. Here's the worst case scenario, and I've had this happen multiple times. I get a call, hey, I found the perfect house. This is the one. It's perfect. Actually, how it happens. That's not actually how it happens. Same thing with Zillow. And in Trulia, those sites aggregate from our MLS systems. But just because they aggregate from those systems doesn't mean the information is accurate. How many of you guys have looked up a home that you like and looked at the Zestimate? Come on, we all did it. Everybody's nodding, right? Look at the Zestimate. Okay, the Zestimate is just an estimate from Zillow on what a home is worth. Now you must find out that Zestimate is 99% of the time correct. Now, why do I say that? If you read the fine print of this estimate, they give themselves a 20% margin of error, plus or minus, right? It's just it's an average of what's in and around. It's not a true accurate reflection. So how many more than that, or actually worth less than that. Payments are typically incorrect on there as well. My favorite story on this, I heard this first one time, the CEO of Zillow had a rental house that he went to sell. The difference between what the property sold for and what his estimate was, $700,000. And he's the CEO of Zillow. They couldn't get his house right. You think they're going to get the house you're looking at right? Probably not. So we want to have access into accurate information. We may see in this week, we'll talk kind of about the market. If you were looking in 2021 or 2020, you had to go see a house and essentially write an offer on the hood of your car and submit it right then. Or you might show up to a house and it might be under contract already. That's how fast things were moving. So we really didn't have time for things to be inaccurate. Now, we're not quite there right now, but we want to make sure that we've got accurate information, that you're not late seeing properties and all those types of things, okay? So if you scan the Briefly Go app on your iPhone, or if you have an Android on the Google Play Store, you can download that. We'll also have this up at the end as well, so that you can look as well. Okay, get out of the way. Yes, that one. It's got a little orange logo. So what types of homes are we looking for? Okay, we're going to look at actively listed homes. You'll be able to see actively listed homes and open houses on our app. We also might find homes that are for sale by owners. Has anybody seen a home with a for sale by owner sign out in front of it? Okay. We do like to warn you, for sale by owners are probably going off this estimate, so be careful when you make an offer based on their purchase price. They might not have any idea what the house is actually worth. We might look at foreclosures. The past couple of years, there haven't been very many foreclosures. There's still not a ton because a lot of people have a lot of equity growth over the past 5 to 10 years. And so if they got in financial trouble, they could actually sell instead of actually having to foreclose. But we are starting to see, Melissa on our team has worked a lot with foreclosure, people in pre-foreclosure. So there are people that are going that. We want to have access to those homes. Also off-market homes. So our team, because we've been in business for over a decade now. Yes. Here. Anymore. Because we've been in business for that long, we have 16,000 plus people that we might find that have homes that they're willing to sell, that are actively listed on the MLS. So we want to look at that. And then lastly, new construction. One of the things, if you're looking online, new construction folks are not always the best about putting their stuff in the MLS. So there may be entire neighborhoods that you're not going to see online because they haven't listed anymore. Those are all the types of homes that we can look at. One of the things that we always recommend is having a buyer consultation with a real estate professional, so that if you're looking for new construction, we can figure out what price point you're looking at, what features do you need, what level of upgrades do you want, and we can help you find those as well. So your agent is going to help be a concierge for you to help siphon through all the homes that might be for sale, eliminate the ones that don't meet your criteria for one reason or another, and help you set showing tours so that you can go out and see homes. We'll also know what to look for in there. I like to tell my folks as we're walking around, you're going to go in here. I don't want you to think about anything else other than, do I like this house and can I see myself living here? I'm going to be the one poking my head in the crawl space, poking my head in the attic, looking at all the potential places where there are leaks and issues, because I want you to know any potential problems that you might run into. Okay, and your real estate professional is going to be trained to know what to look for. So far, let's recap where we're at. So far, we have got our pre-approval amount. We know how much we can buy. We have shot for homes, and guess what? We found the one. Right now, we're ready to make an offer. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about how do we come up with an offer price that we want to offer on a home. 6 things that we're looking for. I'm going to give you some of these in the slides that are to come. The first one is just a general overall market overview. Overall, yeah, you won't have this slide in your packet. So, general overall market overview. Is the market speeding up? Is it slowing down? Is inventory increasing? Is inventory not increasing? Things of that nature. Number 2, we're going to look at months supply of inventory. So you may hear, if you watch any kind of news shows, they may talk about real estate in terms of how many months worth of inventory do we have. Let me explain to you what that means. Months of inventory. Let's say we have 4 active homes on the market in a particular area and a particular price point, and 2 are selling a month. I gave you real easy math here. How many months of supply do you think we have? 2 months supply. Now take that and average it over the entire MLS or over an entire county or over a neighborhood. You can get a feel for how many months of supply do you have. And I've got some slides about that in a little bit. Your agent's going to look at list price to sales price ratios. If a home is listed for $100,000, does it sell at $102,000? Does it sell at $98,000? And we'll look at all the properties that have sold to look and see what the average list price to sales price ratio is. Why is that important? Well, your agent, again, your agent on the buyer side is a fiduciary. It's their job to get you the best deal possible. However, there are times where the best deal possible is $10,000 over asking. And the way you'll know that is if other homes in the neighborhood have sold over their asking prices as well. We're going to look at days on market. So a home that comes on the market today, how long does it stay on the market before someone buys it on average? There was a couple years ago in 2020, there was a time, hopefully we never get back to this low again, but there was a time where the average days on market in certain areas was between 24 hours and 36 hours in certain areas, like listed off, okay? Good news for you is we're not quite there anymore, thankfully. Then we're gonna look at comparable properties. So this is where that's kind of general market overview for specific areas. Then we're gonna zoom into the property that you're looking for. Are there homes in the neighborhood or in the general area that are similar enough in features, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, upgrades? We're gonna try our best to find 3 active listings, 3 under contract listings, and 3 closed listings to give you an idea of A, what is your competition for this home? That's your active listings. B, what have buyers been willing to pay in the time that you're looking? That's your under contract listings. And then the closed are the ones that have sold. That kind of tells you 1 to 3 months ago what were buyers willing to pay. Now, the reason why we want to look at all of those is the market, especially over the last couple months, 6 to 12 months, has been changing and fluctuating pretty quickly. So there could be a situation where a home that sold for $280,000 6 months ago might be worth $310,000. That was the home I put under contract earlier this week. There may be situations where the home that was $310,000 is now probably worth $290,000, $295,000. And your agent's going to help you decipher and look at the data to see what that is. And then we're going to formulate an offer and negotiate. That is the other benefit of having a buyer's agent is, again, having sold over 300, whatever it was, homes. I don't know. I don't keep count. I literally had to count it up today. After selling that many homes, and all the agents on our team are high producing agents, we've kind of seen what negotiation strategies will work better than others. So in 2020, you might have had to waive the appraisal and tell them you're going to take the home as is, not ask for any repairs. There was a time in early 2021, that if you didn't have that, and you also didn't have $10,000 to $15,000 of non-refundable deposits, you weren't winning. Okay, we're not there anymore. So take a deep breath. Okay, but those are the types of things we're going to help formulate an offer and negotiate on your behalf to get you the best deal possible based on that data. Let me pause here. Any questions about anything we've covered so far?
I don't know if there would be something, an agent will help you with or something available on the Burgundy app if you're interested in maybe a new construction. It also requires you to have the land to put the house on. Is that something you can find as
Yes,
well?
so there's 2 ways you can do that. There are new construction builders that they are building neighborhoods out. We have relationships with those builders where we can say, hey, what do you have coming up? What dirt do you have clear that you're about to build on? Also, if you want to build, but you need land and you need a builder, we can help coordinate that for you. Find the vacant land, and then we've got relationships with some builders that we can say, here's what we want, here's the features, how much would it cost, and can we do it or not? Great question. Any other questions right now? Yeah, no, go ahead.
When looking at the borrower, is it everyone in your house over 18 the way it is when you're renting? You need to account for their income, or if you're living with another adult in your household, do you also need to take their credit and their income into consideration when applying?
That's a me or us question, and we'll get to that. We'll go over all that when it's our turn. But it just depends on which programs you're using, but most of the time, no.
Yep.
Just got a question, as far as like retaining a real estate agent.
Mhm.
So, me and my wife was going through the home buying process. We retained the agent.
Okay.
And, you know, we signed basically a contract with him saying that,
Yep.
you know, he would be our agent if we bought a home, he gets a percentage. How long do those usually last? Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because he was like, well, you know, this normally lasts about, 6 months,
Yep.
but we feel like we're not a good fit for each other.
Yep.
I'll send you release papers and you can get released out of it.
Yep.
You know, is that how it really works?
The answer to that question is it depends. So that is one of the things that we'll go through in an individual buyer consult. I can have the specific conversation with you offline about that. But yes, there is a term of your buyer agency agreement, and that term can be mutually terminated. So if you decide you're not doing that, you would need to get that before you retain a new agent. But yes, and the term can, if I've got somebody that says, look, I'm looking to buy a house, if I don't get a house in a month, I'm gonna have to sign a new lease. We can sign it for 2 months. If I've got somebody like, I'm not really sure, but I want you working for me, we can sign it for 6, 12. I mean, I've had people do 12 months before. Just depends on the situation. Depends on the situation. Yep. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. Wanted to kind of give you some data, because I know for a lot of times, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, for some of you, this is going to be a slide of the last 10 years. Some of you are like, wait a minute, I was in middle school 10 years ago. I don't need to know this. This is kind of just to zoom out and look at the big picture. I think everyone would agree we've had a little bit of a tumultuous last 3 or 4 years across the world, right? Hopefully we can get a little more normal here, maybe, or maybe this is our new normal, I don't know. But I wanted to give you a snapshot picture of where things have been for the last 10 years. So you see here, this is a chart of homes for sale in the entire MLS. So our MLS, the Triad MLS, covers everywhere from west of Winston-Salem to east of Burlington, up to the Virginia line. We've even got Vandall, Virginia listings in it, down to Ashburn. Okay, so it's a pretty broad area. So you see here in 2014, we were just under 10,000 total listings. Now, for those of you who are the younger ones of the crowd, before 2014, something happened called 2008. It was the crash of 2008. Real estate got hit really hard in 2008. 2014 is right about the time where you start to see things pick back up. But you've got over 9,500 listings, active listings you could go see today if you wanted to in 2014. And you'll see over the past 10 years, the amount of homes for sale year over year has decreased until about 2021. So if you were looking at 2014, you would have had about 9,500 listings. If you're looking today, you've got about somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 listings that you can look at. So over the last 10 years, there have been fewer and fewer and fewer homes for sale for buyers that are looking in our area. A couple of reasons for that. Congratulations, you live in a place where lots of people want to move to. Our net migration overall is really strong. We got a lot of people moving here. I don't know if you've driven past the airport. There's a lot of new industrial, commercial places coming here, jobs coming here. I am betting big on Greensboro. That's why I own 4 properties in this area. But overall, people are moving to our area. And new construction builders were the ones that got hit the hardest in 2008. They have been way behind on building new construction. So we haven't had enough new construction coming into the market to offset the people that are moving to our area, okay? So that's homes for sale in the entire MLS. The next slide is, wait for it. Suspense, it's killing you, isn't it?
Killing me.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Is month's supply of homes for sale. So remember, again, we talked about months of supply. This means if no other listings came on the market, how quickly would we sell out of every single home that we had? All right. So you'll see here back in 2014, a lot more listings, and you had about 7.5 months worth of inventory. Meaning that if nothing else came on the market, it would have taken us 7.5 months to sell out of everything that we have active on the market. Now, how many of you guys have heard the term buyer's market and seller's market? Okay. Let me kind of explain where that term generally comes from. 6 months worth of inventory is considered balanced supply. Okay, so if we are above 6 months, there we go. We're above 6 months inventory, that means we're in a buyer's market, meaning buyers have the upper hand because there's more competition for sellers than there are for the buyers. If we drop below 6 months worth of supply, that means we're in a seller's market. That means sellers have more of the upper hand. So what you can see is about 2015, 2016, we hit 6 months. Anybody want to notice this is what you don't want to see on your stock portfolio, right? Everything kind of just going down, 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 down. To down in here, where this is 1 month worth of inventory. There were a couple of months in 2020 where we were counting month supply. We weren't counting month supply, we were counting weeks supply. Things would sell out in that quick of time. So fewer and fewer homes for sale, fewer and fewer supply. Now you can see here, this is where it bottomed out, 2021, 2022. And you might ask, why is there some ups and some downs? Some of that is accounted for in seasonality, right? I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people are eating turkey and buying Christmas presents and maxing out credit cards at Christmas time. So some of that accounts for that. Some of it is just general weather, things of that nature, people moving for school districts, things of that nature. But overall, you'll see month supplies kind of come down. Now, last year, in the middle of the year, you might have heard that interest rates started to climb pretty quickly. Please say a prayer for my friends that they will recover from the middle of last year, the trauma of last year. Up to a point in October of last year that if you went and got a conventional mortgage, you were probably going to be paying somewhere around 8% on your interest rate. Right? Now, what you'll notice here is, see right here in this area right here, that's about when those interest rates started changing. You can see inventory tick up to 2%, and then it kind of flattened off again. So we still, even with interest rates going up to 8% at one point last year, it's not like, oh, we're back to a buyer's market now. No, it's still hovered in that 2% or 2 months of supply. Okay. And good news for you, interest rates are maybe even 1.5 points lower than what they were now. So you can all breathe a collective sigh of relief over that. So fewer homes for sale, not a lot of month supply. Now, what does that do for the average price? So people will call and ask us sometimes, do you think it's a good idea for me to buy a house? And we will say, it depends. We'll get a little bit about your situation. And if people say, I'm just going to wait till next year, right? I'm just going to wait till next year. One of the things that we will tell them, and again, we're not twisting your arm into doing anything. It may be the best thing for you to wait until next year. But one of the things that's good to know, look down here at 2014. This is the median sales price of everything sold between, $1, if you find a $1 house, let me know, I will buy it for you, and $500,000. You see here in that price point, your median price was about $125,000, $130,000. Now, this is what you want to see in your stock account, all the way going up here to where that number now in 2024 is in the mid 260s. You might notice anything in particular about this year over year? It keeps going up. Remember, we did the exercise at the beginning. We did the exercise at the beginning about appreciation on your home. The same is true for not buying, that if you are looking at a home now, you can safely expect that next year, around this time, on average, you'll have good years and bad years, but on average, that home is going to be worth $10,000 more next year. Meaning, if you go to buy it next year, instead of paying $250,000, you're going to be paying $260,000. Does that make sense? So overall, the kind of big picture for all of that is that in our market currently, we are still, even with things getting a little better, we are still, relatively speaking, in a seller's market. Meaning we have to have a really good plan if you're going to get a house under contract, because there's not going to be that many homes for sale anyways. And when the ones come up that you want, we have to have a really strategic offer to put in. Okay?
But Luke, what if I'm waiting because my interest rate can go down a point next year?
That's a great question. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad you asked.
You're ruining my skill for that.
Okay.
Sorry. But that's what they're thinking it.
Right.
They're thinking it, you're right? Come on, right? You're like, wait a minute, it may go up to 260, but if I'm paying 7% now and I can pay 6% next year, won't that be worth it? Come on, right?
Go ahead. What's your response?
One of my, by the way, I'm Kyle Davis with the mortgage manager, just my future wife, she works with me, pays me most days, you know, it depends. But, most of my clients say, when's the best time to buy? Well, I always say now, because what happened in 2019, 2020, 2021? Well, I'm going to wait for the prices to come down, when interest rates were 2%. Well, what's happened, guys? Rates went up, prices still are up, and they're still continuing to go up. So, well, I'm gonna wait now until rates drop. Okay, well, the prices are still going to continue to rise. So the longer you wait, is the less amount of time you're going to have to start making that appreciation.
However, if the rates really drop a point, can you refinance?
Absolutely.
So wait, you can buy a house now, and next year, if rates drop a point, you can get that interest rate and do this thing called a refinance of your mortgage. So what we want to tell you is marry the house, date the rate.
And for numbers' sake, every point that interest rates drop, 5 million buyers enter the market. So that's a lot of people. So you're up against 5 million more people if you just continue to wait until interest rates drop.
And you have lenders that will actually call you and say, this now makes sense, and they can build in the closing cost of the refinance, and all that's also going to be deducted off your taxes as an expense from doing the loan, okay? Just please marry the house, date the rate, because also next year, if rates actually go up a point and you're at 6 or 7 right now, you're going to be a hero.
And we are expecting that by the end of this year, beginning of 2025, interest rates are going to look way different. That's what our expectation is. So 5% is what we're hoping for.
Better.
Yes,
Better, but we still have no inventory, so prices aren't coming down. It's only going to get more intense.
So buy now and refund.
Yes.
And rates change daily. That's something that, that's not something typical that you may know as a buyer. Rates change daily. They're affected by inflation. They're affected by jobs report. So it's pretty common for them to go up and down. But altogether, we do know that the Feds have committed to 3 interest rate drops this year, which that is not mortgage interest rates. That's federal rates, but they do indirectly impact one another. So we do expect this year there's going to be 3 different interest rate shifts. So in your favor, of course.
Any questions about that so far?
Yeah, just kind of a supposition or like a curiosity I have. So if in fact, so the average interest is right now what, 6.75?
Roughly, yes.
So if in fact they're 5%, let's say at December of the end of this year. So you're saying that might bring on as many as 5 or 10 million shoppers nationwide or?
Correct.
Yes.
And so in other words, if we don't buy now, in other words, we do wait for a year and we wait for that lower rate, the appreciation might be much more than 4%.
Absolutely.
We could be fighting with another
That's correct.
15% year. Or
You might be fighting with multiple offers. You might be back at fighting with multiple offers, having to give them everything, no appraisal, no inspection to win, because we lost another thing. So we had 10 years in this country, 10 years of we didn't build enough houses. On average, this country, you need to build about 1 million homes a year to keep up with demand. And from 2008, actually more than the lost decade, okay, through 2021, builders never touched 1 million homes being built a year. We're behind. Just in that alone, we are behind. Now,
Behind to the tune of 40 to 80% behind. We're not talking like we're running
we're not going to.
25, 50 million.
And is there a projection of when we would get caught up?
Oh, great question. Seriously, great question. No, because because guys, here's the other thing. No, because what COVID did was people can now work everywhere. And guess what? Congratulations. They want to live in North Carolina. So you're going to see the national news show you home prices are down, home prices are down. Yeah, home prices are down in Connecticut, in New York, and in California, where interest rates are high, where taxes are super high. So you're gonna see house prices down there, and don't watch the news. That's why we're the professionals to help you, because they're moving here. They come here and go, oh my God. I had a friend who lives in Colorado come here to our house, walk up my door and looked at my house and was like, how much did you pay for this house? And I was like, $255. He's like, first, this yard is huge compared to my house in Colorado. And B, this is 1.2 million in Colorado. And I was like, what? Right? So guys, just please understand, like, if you watch the national news, there are going to be parts of the country that are going to tell you the housing market is crashing, because in those areas, people are going to be leaving. So to answer your question, there's going to be sections of housing where people are leaving. And national news is going to try and grab headlines and tell you the market's crashing. Okay? Our job is to give you the data and be consultants so you know what's going on here. And they are moving here in droves. We have 11 people a day moving to Guilford County. We will not be able to keep up. So I don't have an answer for you right now, because our water and sewer lines are already so tapped with all the utilities coming in, we can't keep up. We are behind. Okay?
All right.
But the good news is, like I said, right now, because the rates, we're not having people buying and having to pay tons above ask or whatever, because rates are high right now a little bit. So you're not having that competition like you had. Okay? But if rates come down, we're gonna be right back there where everybody's fighting like crazy.
So we have a little bit of a window of opportunity, kind of,
We believe you do.
yeah.
The data says yes.
And the opportunity may get less and less.
Look, let's go, can we go the other way with that? Can we go the other way? Let's go worst case scenario. Let's say we're wrong. Just real quick, let's say we're wrong and rates go up. Then you're gonna be a hero because you got a house now at a rate that's already locked in, right? Number one. Number two, we know we cannot, even with a pandemic, we did not stop buying houses in this county or in this area. We can't get to a buyer's market anytime soon. So you know, absolute worst case scenario, you've got a 5 to 7 year window before things get caught up. Absolute worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Okay,
All right.
it's just data.
Speaking of being behind, we are behind. So
Sorry.
let's move ahead.
Yep.
I just want to give you a couple of things. So as let's say we've found the home you like, we put that home under contract. Let's talk about the process. First of all, this is the document that you will see if you buy a house. It's called a professional services disclosure. Look at all of these people you're going to need potentially to be involved.
Wait, there's another page.
But wait, there's more. I told them I wanted some of that, the like peel and stick slap tape, right? There's more, and then there's even blank lines, assuming that you might have more people in there. These are all referrals that your real estate professional should be able to help you with. Go to the next slide. Now, next slide. Next slide. Look at that. Bam. Look at all the stuff that we did. By the way, this is my least favorite slide. We're going to keep going through this. Chris loves this slide. I don't know. But look at all the stuff that's going to happen. This is all the stuff that your real estate professional is going to be doing for you. So people ask, do I need a real estate professional? And I say, do you want to do all this stuff? Probably not. Let's talk about once we've got a home under contract. Okay, this is the process from when you get under contract to when you get your keys. Okay, the first thing that's going to happen, we're going to make an offer. We're going to negotiate the terms. We're going to get an offer accepted. We're going to high five with one hand. We're not going to do the double high five champagne pop yet because there's a lot of stuff still left to go. You're going to enter into what's called the due diligence period. The due diligence period. This is something that your agent is going to help you negotiate. The due diligence period. That is a period of time during the contract, somewhere between 2 weeks and 4 weeks, depending on how your contract is negotiated. $100 roughly, all the way up to $1,500, depending on what you're doing. Okay, let me give you just a general idea of cost. With home inspection, there's going to be your actual home inspection. That's when the inspector is going to go around, look at everything, make sure all the light bulbs work. Make sure. Then you're going to want to get a pest inspection. Termites, powder post beetles, carpenter bees, all those types of lovely things that no one wants in their house. You may decide to get a radon test. Make sure that the house doesn't have high radon. Don't worry about that. We'll cover that in your buyer consultation. Okay? All those together can cost you anywhere from, again, $450 to $650, depending on how big the house is that you're looking for. Now, let's say you want to live where I grew up, Saxby, North Carolina. Anybody know where Saxby, North Carolina is? Why are you all looking at me with blank stares? Like you don't know where Saxby, North Carolina is. We have a caution light, people. Saxby, North Carolina. You may be in the county. So sorry? Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself. Those are my people. I'm not gonna talk about it. You may have a well and septic system. You may want to get the well inspected. You may want to get the water tested to make sure that the water doesn't have any bacteria in it. You might want to get the sewer system inspected to make sure that it's working properly. You will be shocked how many people who have a sewer system have never got their sewer system pumped and investigated. There's people, I had one recently, they had no idea where the septic system was. And the records were so old, we didn't know. Those are all things that you're going to want to potentially get inspected. And then your lenders were going to require an appraisal. What is an appraisal? Thank you for asking. An appraisal is where a third party from the lender is going to go out and give an appraised value of the home. In other words, if Movement Mortgage is going to give you $100,000 for your mortgage, they want to make sure that the home is worth at least $100,000, or actually the purchase price. They're going to want to make sure the purchase price and the value are the same. Why is that? Well, if you go to the gas station after this and scratch the scratch off and win enough to fly the coop to Turks and Caicos, and you never make a mortgage payment, they want to make sure that the house is at least worth the money they gave you for it. Okay, so that's another process. People a lot of times will ask, how much money should I expect to have up front during the contract, right? That's a big question we get a lot of times. Your inspections and your appraisals, or your appraisal, is typically speaking, there may be one or two exceptions, but typically speaking, the only things that you pay for up front before closing. Okay, you shouldn't have to pay anything up front to get a pre-approval or anything of that nature, right? Some companies do, and if they do, you should cut pay and run.
What do they usually run, the appraisal?
About 75 to 650.
Depending on property type and size of the location, but yes, somewhere in that ballpark.
VA is about 25.
And that's not including closing costs.
That's not included in your closing
It's
costs.
separate.
That's a separate thing, yeah. Yep. And again, that's something that when you talk to a lender, they will give you an idea. Here's what your closing costs are. The one thing that may or may not be in there is your inspections and your appraisals. So we just want to make sure we have that money set aside as well.
Should you waive the inspection to save money?
It's a great question. You are not legally required to have an inspection. That is the legal answer. The personal preference answer is get your home inspected. It's worth it. Because in North Carolina, we are what's called a caveat emptor state. You might know what caveat emptor means? No, you don't, because nobody means it's Latin. Nobody knows. It's a buyer beware state, meaning the seller is not legally obligated to disclose anything to you. It is buyer beware. There is a disclosure, however, they can check no representation on the disclosure, which essentially says, I'm pleading the fifth on everything. So you want to look under the hood to make sure you know what you're getting. Because a lot of people, we've had a lot of people buy investment properties in our area that they're now turning to sell them because they've appreciated, and they've never lived in the house. And so they're going to say, I have no idea what's going on in the house. Right? So it's worth getting a home inspection, for sure. For sure. Put it this way, if you don't get a home inspection, I'm going to make you sign something that says, I told you you probably should get a home inspection and you chose not to, because there's a lot of liability on the back side. The worst thing that you can do is close on a house, show up with your moving truck, and then realize that the plumbing doesn't work, right? So you're going to want to do all of that stuff. You're going to want to do all of that during the due diligence period. Now, the reason for that is in North Carolina, our contracts have two types of deposits. Okay, both of these deposits get credited back to you at closing. So this is not money in excess of what you're putting down for your closing costs and down payment. It shows as a credit, but you have to put those down up front. The first one is called the due diligence fee. That is a non-refundable fee. I'll say that one more time. That is a non-refundable fee, meaning if you put an offer on a house, you're going to offer them a certain amount for due diligence. That can be anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000. It can be anything. We negotiate. One of the things your agent's gonna help you with is knowing how much you should do to be competitive with that, okay? That money is non-refundable, meaning if you go under contract today and you wake up tomorrow and you call me, like I had a buyer call me one time and say, Luke, he's got some bad mojo about this house. I can't do it. I gotta terminate. I had given them a $2,000 due diligence fee. They were under contract for about 8 hours. They terminated, they lost that money. You don't get that money back, okay? So we have a due diligence fee, which is non-refundable. Then you have earnest money, which is non-refundable after the end of this due diligence period. Okay, so from step 4 and 5, your due diligence fee is non-refundable. Your earnest money is refundable if you terminate during this period. If you terminate after this period, right? So don't do anything mean to your boss to get fired the day before closing, because then you lose your earnest money too. Okay, because your earnest money is non-refundable from here to here. Clear about the deposits. And again, that gets credited back to you at closing. It shows up as a credit on your cost. So it's not an extra cost. It's just kind of recourse for the seller in the event that you back out of the contract.
Do you need to have that money saved on your own
Yes.
prior, outside of the loan amount you're applying?
So your lender will pull your bank statements. You need to have enough for your down payment and closing cost. Some of that same money will include the money that you have for this. It needs to be liquid though, because you need to be able to write a check when you get a contract.
The due diligence will come off of the closing cost. So if you owe $5,000 in the closing cost and you gave a $2,000 due diligence deposit, you'd bring $3,000 for closing. So it gets deducted out.
Yep.
What is the due diligence usually run? I know you said that's a wide range.
It is, and it depends on the property. The reason why it's such a wide range is it depends on the property. If a property has been sitting on the market for 6 months and they haven't had any offers and it's got some noticeable issues, I've had contracts. Now, Melissa's going to kill me when I said it. I've had contracts where we've done nothing in due diligence because we said, look, you haven't disclosed anything to me. This house has been on the market for 8 months. We have no idea what we're getting. So instead of giving you non-refundable money up front, we're going to pay for an inspection instead. You can have that. I've had it recently as high as, what's the highest you've had recently?
I had a client in full asking price. It was $75,000 foreclosure home. And he just like gave full sales price of due diligence.
So really, but on a typically speaking, what I'm seeing win recently is anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah, I won with $400,000 house. $380. I won with $5,000. I lost one at $350 with $3,000.
In December, I was winning with $1,000, but that was because of how much the inventory shifted due to the interest rates going up.
So it just all depends on it. And that's part of the data we'll give you when it's time for you to make the offer. We'll show you.
And one of the things that we do on our team, we track our winning offers to see like, okay, in the last month, we've been winning with $3,000 to $5,000. But in December, we might have won with $1,000. So it really just depends on the particular property and kind of what's going on.
And we're ethical. We look and see how many showings they have coming up on the property.
Correct.
So we can tell you like, oh, they've got 2 showings this weekend.
I've got a live example. The property I put under contract this week, we put an offer in. They countered our due diligence amount because they were negotiating that. And I looked and said, guys, there's no other showings booked on this house for the rest of the week. We can stay and pat if we want. And he said, no, I'd rather just be done. I want to be due. So we went back with a higher due diligence. But we could have sat if we wanted to with that. So it really just depends on the specific property, what it is. But I would say if you've got $3,000 to $5,000 in your mind, you should be relatively safe that you're going to be able to get something in that range. But maybe even lower depending on the property.
And it depends on the time too, because like I said, December we were winning in $1,000. I am not winning at $1,000 right now currently because the market is picking back up.
Well, there's also, again, so agents across the Triad, a lot of them got used to what was happening in 2020, 2021. And so the expectation changed. So for example, in 2016, 2017, you could win a contract with $250, $500 in due diligence and a bigger earnest money deposit. Well, COVID happened and it was like $20,000, $30,000. And now expectations are not that high, but expectations are $250. Like, what are you a joke? Like, are you joking? Like, you need to at least have 1,000-ish, probably. I don't know if I've won one recently with less than 1,000 that was recently come on the market.
Is there a new scenario where you get them?
Very rare scenarios. It would have to be something in the contract, which your agent will give you a sample of to read through. There are a couple of ways that sellers can breach a contract. Very rare. So I'd say I've had it, of the 340, I think I've had people get their due diligence back once. So it's very rare. It's got to be something blatantly odd, like seller gets to the closing table and refuses to sign, or something like that. So.
Failed inspection.
So that's a great question, and I'm going to answer that question and pose another question. A lot of times people ask, is there a such thing as passing and failing an inspection? The answer to that question is no, because there is no, like, nothing can stop a house from being sold. Now, there's stuff that can stop you from getting a loan on it, but, I mean, you can sell 4 walls and a roof with no utilities, no nothing, if you want to. But there's nothing required in the inspection that would put a seller in breach of contract.
If you do an inspection on a property, discover, let's say, radar.
Mm-hmm.
And you pay for that inspection and walk away, they know now. They have to disclose that to the next buyer.
Yes, so that is part of the negotiations. So they have to either remedy it or disclose it to any future buyers. There are certain category of things that are material facts. So anything from a high radon test is an example. If you get a contractor quote on something, home inspections are interesting because home inspectors aren't licensed in specific areas. So a lot of the stuff that they say will say, it appears that the plumbing drains slow. Consult a plumber for the reason. So if you have just their word, that doesn't necessarily constitute a material fact per se, but if you have a plumber, it does. So that's something that in negotiations, depending on the other agent, you can say something along the lines of, look, it's $1,500 to get this radon fixed. Put the radon system in for us, because you're going to have to put it in for us or you put it in for the next person. And that's part of the negotiation. But they don't have to do anything. Again, the contracts in North Carolina are very seller friendly in the sense that there's no required repairs.
So due diligence, is that the one that you basically give them to say, here, I want to offer on this house?
One way that we'll talk about it sometimes is it's when you give somebody a due diligence fee, that lets you take the house off the market to hold it hostage for a little while to see if you for sure want to buy it. So no one else can come in once you're under contract. No one else can come in. Now they can put a backup offer in, but no one else can come in and trump your offer. It's not like a seller can say, "Oh, I got this price from this person, and now I've got this offer from this person, and I'm going to kick this offer to the curb."
So I'm a little bit new to the state here. So in other words, in North Carolina, the laws, as you said, are seller friendly when it comes to the making an offer.
Yep.
Because when in the state of Washington, a lot of people, would intentionally tie down a house, or in other states that I've observed things happen. The buyer or prospective buyers would intentionally tie down a house to keep other people so they can get an inspection.
Yep.
And then in the contract, they could say no for any reason they want.
Yep.
Just about. So in other words, I should become more familiar with the North Carolina rules so that I'm doing the right thing and not putting myself at risk, thinking that I can easily get out of it.
And that's a great point, because in North Carolina, you can terminate for any reason at all. Also, you just don't get that money back, your deposit back. So I think it's California. I had some folks relocating from California. I believe it was California. But there are some states where they'll have, like, you put the house under contract, then you have an inspection period. And you put, you got something for the inspection period. Then you have an appraisal period. And then you have a loan finalization period, and all these different stages. In North Carolina, it's lumped all into one stage.
I just learned in South Carolina, you actually can't even terminate for any reason. It has to be a loan condition. It has to be something wrong with the appraisal or something wrong with the loan. Like if something wrong with the home, it's not a reason to terminate, and then the seller could actually sue you.
And also, you don't turn that due diligence money unless you go
Get
under contract.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that is part of your down payment.
Yeah.
Right?
So one of the things that we'll do when we show homes, right? There's a reason why, like, I might be dressed like this, but I'm like crawling in the crawl space to look at stuff. Because we're going to see what kind of plumbing materials are you? What kind of wiring do you have? So, again, your agent should be looking for all the stuff that could come up on inspection. Now, again, I'm not, putting on a hazmat suit crawling under there. Your inspection, by the way, this is a phrase we use a lot, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. When you get the inspection, it is going to read like the house is falling down. It's going to be 60 to 80 pages long, and it's going to be like colors everywhere and pictures and all kinds of stuff. You're going to be terrified. We will actually have you come to the inspection So you can talk to the inspector, because most of the time the inspector is going to say, look, out of this 60 pages, here's 3 things that I think are really concerning. Okay. So that's another thing that we're gonna help you with. So we want to get all that done before the end of the due diligence period, because we don't want any more money at risk until we know for sure that you are going to be moving forward. Now, what happens after the due diligence period ends? Well, in North Carolina, we are a attorney state, meaning you close with real estate attorneys. So they're going to pull title searches. They're going to get your escrow accounts that you need. All the loan docs will get their final review. Then you're going to show up and sign all the documents. Go ahead and start practicing your signatures, because you're going to show up and sign all the documents. One of those, which we'll talk about on the next slide, is going to be your closing disclosure. And then you will leave the attorney, and in about an hour, you'll get the keys. So can you go to the next slide, Chris? Yes, sir. Here's the closing timeline. Okay, 3 days prior to closing or more, especially if you have a good loan officer. Hopefully we're not waiting until 3 days out, but at least 3 days out from closing, you're going to get a closing disclosure. That closing disclosure is going to say, hey, you remember when you applied for the loan and we told you here's what the loan is? This is the disclosure that tells you what we told you were getting and what you're actually getting are the same thing. You've got to get that 3 days prior to closing. Okay. Now, in North Carolina, because we're an attorney state, there's a fun little game that happens at the end where you get a preliminary closing disclosure. That closing disclosure goes to the attorney. The attorney prorates all the taxes. They send it back to the lender. And the lender says, yeah, that looks good to me. They send it back to the attorney, and then you get your final one that has your actual cash amount to close. Okay. We'll have a closing appointment. That's something we're going to help you book. You will bring certified funds to closing, either a wire transfer or a certified check. You'll go in and sign all your documents. You'll be surprised. It actually is less documents to buy a house than a car in a lot of cases, depending on what you've already done. And then the deed will go on record. Okay. When we say go on record, that means that the city or the county that you're buying a home in has gotten the deed and they've stamped it and said, yep, you are now the new owner of the house. One thing that we will always recommend people do, please take this down as a note. Do not schedule a bunch of stuff to happen on the day of closing, if possible. Movers, carpet cleaners, painters, any of that stuff. Here's the reason why. Let's say you close on a property at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You go in and sign all your documents. Sellers has already signed their documents. Attorney's going to say, hey, thank you so much for signing. We'll give you a call when this is on record. I'm going to go scan everything in and send it in. That can take 30 minutes. That can take an hour. Or as happened one year when the city office lost power for the afternoon, nobody got on record that day. And you can't get the keys and move into your property until it's on record. So we always say, if at all possible, plan on the next day. That gives you a little bit of a buffer room there and you're not scrambling. Now, some cases it's unavoidable, and if it is, we'll help you manage that. But our recommendation is always try to close on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because Friday, closing attorneys are nuts, and Monday they're cleaning up all the messes they made on Friday. And it's a lot more calm. Everybody's got a little bit more of a good vibe if we do that. And then you get your keys, and then you invite me and the rest of the team to your housewarming party, which I've made that joke to every person that's ever bought a house with me, and I've only got invited to 3 housewarming parties. So please, I went to all 3. I went to all 3.
Tell them it was a family member.
And then you get your keys, and then we're all excited.
The attorney, what's the general cost?
Attorney's going to cost, they're going to have 2 costs. They're going to have the closing, the actual cost of the closing, which is a couple $100s. And then they're going to have the title search fee, which is usually
About $1,700 for both.
Yeah.
Is what we typically ask.
1,700-ish, roughly.
Yeah.
1,200 to
If you
1,700.
wanna
I guess it depends on the price of the house and just having the house
Yeah.
and how much paperwork you have to do, but that's a decent range.
Well, how easy,
Mm-hmm.
what is the average that you would recommend between the closing costs, the due diligence fee,
Yep.
the earnest money,
Yep.
the attorney costs?
So that's going to be person-to-person specific. So again, in a couple slides, I'm going to have a nice little QR code for these fine folks. They can actually run you a full-out estimate. Say, here's how much you should save and have. Because if you're putting a lot down or you're not putting a lot down, if you're putting 3% down on a $250,000 house, that's $7,500 for your down payment. Another 7, 8.
3% of the purchase price is like a solid
Yep.
guess.
Because again, remember,
Yeah.
those deposits, you don't have to have extra for those. Those deposits count in there. So somewhere in that 3% of the purchase price is typically a good range. One second.
A question. So in the past, we had put, like when we were trying to get a contract on a house, we had put $3,000 for due diligence.
Yep.
But our real estate agent, he suggested that we should offer also an appraisal gap.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Because other homes in the area was, he was looking at the value of the other homes in the area versus the home he was trying to buy.
Yep.
And so he was saying, well, if the appraiser comes out and says, okay, well, you offer this, but the house only appraises for this.
Yep.
You put appraisal gap, so
Yep.
that way it'll take the responsibility off
Yep.
the seller.
Yep.
How often, that being said, how often do you recommend like your clients, to put appraisal gap down in addition to due diligence?
It's a great question. In 2021, almost every deal had that. In later half of 2023 to now, I haven't done one 6 months, probably.
I haven't seen one in over a year.
Yeah, so an appraisal gap, so let's say you're buying a $100,000 house, just because I'm not very good at math and I need math to be easy. And we look at the comparables, and it looks like houses in the area have sold for somewhere between 92 and 95,000. Well, we know this is going to be at the top end. This is going to be the ceiling, right? So a lot of times we'll talk about it in terms of the ceiling and the floor. What's the lowest possible and what's the highest possible? The appraiser is running their own comparables. But we're going to run a market analysis to give you an idea. They're going to run their own comparables to get their. In the event that the $100,000 contract you have, the appraiser comes in at $95,000. There's now a $5,000 gap. And something's got to happen with that $5,000 gap. Either the seller has to reduce the price, that 95, which they're not required to, or you've got to cover that extra gap. So that's by default. Or you forfeit your due diligence fee. That's correct. Yeah. So what was happening a lot in 2020, 2021 is I would have people with $20,000 due diligence fees, and the appraisal would be $10,000 difference, and they'd say, well, I might as well cover the gap, otherwise I'm going to lose $20,000, right? So it really depends. They're much more rare now. However, the reason why you want to work with somebody who knows the market and has worked with appraisers before is we know kind of how appraisers make adjustments, and we actually had an appraiser come in and we said, how do you do this? And they literally ran one for us and gave us their cheat sheet of how they do it. And so we want to get it as close as possible so that if you put an offer in and there might be an appraisal shortage, we want you to know. We want to say, hey, like you're at, the ceiling is we're over the ceiling here of what we've seen. What we've seen so far is that that's becoming less of a problem because you're not getting as much of prices aren't appreciating 20%. So appraisers are going to use 3 to 6 months comparables. Well, in 2021, if you bought a house in June of 2021, it might be 25% more than what sold in January of 2021. And that's where that appraisal waiver or the appraisal gap was more common. It's not as common now. It's a much better time. I know I painted a doom and gloom picture of the buyer side right now. It's actually a much better time to buy right now than it was in 2020, 2021, for sure.
I got a real quick question. Since I come from an escrow state
Yep.
rather than an attorney state,
Yep.
and I just looked up on the internet, most of the states in the USA are escrow,
Yep.
maybe about
1 of 5, I think.
20%.
Yep.
So basically, the escrow or the attorney state. So when those functions take place, they pretty much do the same thing, but they're just done by different people.
Yes. Functionally speaking, yes.
One is the escrow people, the other is the attorney. And are the fees probably pretty comparable to?
Yeah, roughly speaking, it may be a hair more expensive here than in escrow states, but
in North Carolina, title insurance is mandated by the state. The state actually regulates the amount of title insurance.
and let's talk about what title insurance is. So just if you're not familiar, title insurance is a one-time policy. It's part of your closing cost. That is insurance over the attorneys or any of the previous attorneys making mistakes. So if, 10 years down the road, Uncle Tommy comes up the street and says, this is actually my property, and an attorney made a mistake, you've got insurance for that. Nobody can come and claim that that's actually their property down the road.
And the amount of whatever it is mandated by the state. Like the state regulates how much can be charged, what is charged in North Carolina. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, it's what, they pull the policy and that's the price.
Yep.
Right? There's no shopping title companies or escrow companies for different title insurance amounts. It's
And those
price
companies,
is price.
generally speaking, will be picked by the attorney.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, they do what's called a renewal policy. They're gonna give you the cheapest rate. It's just back and forth. Anyway, a lot of detail.
That's the process, okay? I'm gonna skip, so don't worry about writing this down.
Yeah, because they gave it to you.
They gave it to you. We did not plan that, by the way. This is all the things not to do. Essentially, live your normal life, right? Don't go buy a car or a boat or an RV while you're under contract, or you will be living in it. If you do that, you will not be able to buy that.
Don't go buy furniture yet.
Don't go buy furniture,
Don't go in-
nothing.
If you're nicer than me, I'm gonna tell you to eat noodles and drink water.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute.
So that is in your packet. I'm not gonna belabor that point. All right, I went way too far. We'll get you one. There's actually one back there. I'll get you one in just a second. All right, I've gone way too long. I told them I had 30 minutes worth of stuff.
That's good, you have good.
So Kyle and Melia here are from Movement Mortgage. These are their QR codes if you would like to scan their QR codes. Let's talk any questions on the loan side, costs, programs. I did want, since there's several of you are first-time home buyers, there is a North Carolina specific first-time home buyer grant program, which these folks do that you may qualify for. Why don't you guys give a little bit of information on that program and then just pepper them with questions, because that's what they like.
And just so you know, we're gonna get all of your information after this, and we'll send you like a packet of a lot of things that are, I would say, common sense things, a list of things to do and to not do while you're looking for homes. So we'll give you a bunch of that through email so that you can go back and reference it. I know that they give you a piece of paper, it's very easy to throw down and lose, so we'll email that all to you.
Yeah, I do want to just kind of start off with right in the beginning where Luke was talking about appreciation. I'm going to give you a little personal story. I bought my first house in 2014 for $87,500. 8 years later, I sold it for $220,000. That, and the funny thing is, I was doing the math when you were doing that. I made $16,250 per year off of just buying that house. Now, ignore that I bought the house for 87 because it's hard to find a house at that price now, but the appreciation is still going up the same amount. So you're still going to have that profit. I did nothing other than just buy a house and live in it, sell it later, and I mostly paid off my student loans. Me and Luke went to college together. So, that is where, that's just the math of things. You own a home. Eventually down the road, if you sell it, rent it out, you're going to make a lot of money off of that. 90% of the millionaires have started in real estate where most of their portfolio is in real estate. 90% of millionaires in the United States. That's, a little Google search. So yeah, that is just an impressive number, so you know it works, right? But this is the fun part. This is where most of your questions are going to be. Income questions, asset questions, credit score questions. That's what we're here for, and that's what we do every single day. Every single person in here, if you haven't bought a house, can. I can guarantee you that right now you can buy a house. Now, is it going to take 3 days for you to get where you need to be, or 3 years is going to be up to you guys? I've had clients I've worked with for 3 years and they bought a house, I think 2 months ago. I have some people, 3 months. If you do what we tell you guys to do, credit score wise, income wise, you will buy a house. That's without it. So we'll just kind of open this forum up and I can kind of help out a little bit, but what are just some general financing questions that you guys have to kind of start this? Yes, sir.
All right, so we were looking for a house like past spring, all through summer, and then like early part of fall. We made some offers. They got people offer better offers, and we didn't ever get a house. So then in October, I bought a vehicle. So how will that affect me? Like, how long will I have to wait before, like I'm able to get back into the swing of buying a house? Do I have to pay the vehicle completely off, or?
It depends on your situation. I could buy 10 cars if I make enough money to afford that. When it comes to my debt to income ratio, it's not going to affect technically you buying a house. Now, if your ratios are tight, your debts versus your income, and then you bought a car, you might still be able to buy a house, but your buying power, instead of 300,000, maybe it's 250,000 now. So it's case-to-case situation. Sometimes it will hurt you, sometimes it won't. Also, just a fun fact, when you guys go car shopping, dealerships are really, really bad at shotgunning your credit. What that is called is, well, what that means is when they pull your credit, they're going to send it off to 15 different banks. Well, guess what? They pull your credit too. And now you get all these inquiries, and that's what really drags down your credit. So when you guys go shop, either go get pre-approved, probably through a credit union when it comes to auto loans first, or tell that person, that finance guy, hey, listen, this is my credit, this is what I'm thinking my credit score is, this is where everything's at. Who do you think will accept this? Send it to that person. I don't want you to shotgun. And another reason dealerships do that is they're one of the last businesses that can make money off of the interest rate they give you. So, hey, if Santander Bank is offering this and Bank of America is offering this, they might make more money if they send you to Santander, or vice versa. So don't ask how that's legal, but it is. And that's why a lot of times they shop and send you all over the place to maybe find you the best deal. A lot of times they find them the best deal.
I think creative financing is important too, so you opened a new car loan. Let's just say you're teetering on the line of being able to qualify with that car loan. What if you're the only person on the loan, but you're married? Hey, let's take a look at putting the car loan in your partner's name so it doesn't show up, therefore your qualification is not impacted at all. So there are creative ways to do it. It just takes time to sit down and kind of work through that.
Gotcha. And that's what we tell a lot of our clients, especially, you don't have to be married, it could be anybody that's on the loan, is, hey, usually it's married couples to where, hey, I really want to be on the loan with my wife or husband. Well, there's no financial benefit for you to be on there. You're legally married in North Carolina, you still have the same ownership interest in the house, right? Somebody passes away, it's your home. But why hold up both of your debts with one house if one person could afford it on paper, the next person could put the investment property or an auto loan, and you're just kind of leveraging your debt to income ratio.
So when you're speaking of leveraging the debt to income ratio and as far as a couple and balancing those things out, when looking at the documents you need to approve, what if they have the better credit score, but you have the better savings? Isn't it frowned upon to like send large lump sum like to maybe make their bank account look better if you've been, so in our particular situation, I'm the better saver, but everything's currently in my name. When we're looking to purchase this home, we want it to be in my husband's name. So at what point during my process should I transfer that money over to his account?
Don't do that. So there's a process you can call, it can be considered a gift. So you can be, it could be a gift. So during the process, let's just say that we know you have all of the funds and he doesn't quite have that in his account. What we can do is, even though you're not on the loan, we can have you gift him the funds directly to the attorney for closing, or you can gift it directly to his bank account. And what we'll do, we'll have you sign a gift letter. It just states, hey, you're giving these funds. You don't expect it back. We'll get a copy of the check. And then we'll also get your bank account, depending on the loan type that you're in, to show that those funds were truly transferred from account 1 to account 2. So you wouldn't have to do that up front. As a matter of fact, I would suggest not. Let's put our eyes on those first and see what everything looks like, and then set a plan to do the gift. Because a lot of times when we hear people say, hey, I'm getting a gift, we stop them in their tracks, because what does that mean to you? So a gift to me means I'm going to transfer it from bank 1 to bank 2. Some people might say it may be a sock drawer that grandma or grandpa has. Cash is not as a viable source of a gift.
Wow, when is the wedding? Because actually, look what you know.
We work together.
Yeah. So no cash gifts. You can sell things, however you want to track that. So let's just say you are going to sell a car, or maybe you have a collective set that you can sell for a lot of money. You need a bill of sale. If someone pays you for whatever you're selling, you have to have it in the form of a cashier's check. It cannot be cash. So there are lots of ways to do this. You can use a 401k, retirement account, a stock account. You know, I think a lot of people are like, I don't have the money for it. And I always say there are multiple different resources that we can utilize to get you into a home. We just have to dig. So.
And by the way, we talked a lot about the importance of having a real estate professional who's done this a lot on your team. Same thing is true on the loan side. Because all that stuff, if you walk into Bank of America and they, you know, pick the sandwich deli number of whoever's next to do those, they may not know how to do this stuff. So you're actually building a team of your real estate professional and your mortgage professional. And we will work together too to make sure, you know, there are times where it's 4 o'clock on a Friday and I may say, Kyle, we're looking at a house that's 5,000 over the approval you sent me. Is there any way to make this happen? And we can do that. Whereas you might not be able to do that with just the person at your bank.
And just keep in mind, if you don't use us, that's perfectly fine. There's other great lenders out there, right? We're not just, you know, I don't want to say we're dime a dozen, we're great, but there's other people that know how to do their job, right? But the biggest thing I would say is if your lender is not asking for documentation, even during the pre-approval process, which is, hey, we're talking, I pulled your credit, I need some information, a pay stub, a W-2, they're not doing their job.
That's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. So a pre-qual, if you tell me you make $1 million a month and you're a rock star, well, I believe that you make $1 million a month and you're a rock star. But a pre-approval, I'm going to ask you for that pay stub to show me that you truly did make that $1 million a month.
That's where we see the biggest mistakes, and we call them rescue deals from other lenders. Is, oh, well, we're 2 weeks from closing, a week from closing, they can't get the loan. Well, why? Well, they're really not telling us. They're kind of not answering the question.
Yeah.
Well, because you said you were a full-time employee, okay? You work 40 hours a week, but then we get your pay stubs, you work 36, 38, 37. It's all over the place. Well, you're not working for it. You're working all variable hours. But when we're looking at variable hours, now we have to calculate your income differently. So instead of using this income, now we need to use this income. Now you might not qualify for that amount that you thought. So that's why, you know, our job is not that difficult, okay? There's certain things that are tough, but if you do things right up front, there should be no surprises.
Yeah, the one thing that again, that due diligence fee, like, oops, my lender made a mistake, is not a reason to get your due diligence fee back. So you want to be really fine-tuned.
Well, that is correct. He is right. But I will tell you, I did get a pre-approval. Someone went under contract. The lender came back a day later after they went under contract, said we can't do it. And so I dissected the entire file. I went through it and I said, unfortunately, this person should have never been pre-approved. Never. I called the listing agent and they gave the money back because I made that phone call.
Okay, that is not typical.
That is not typical, but, you know, you just need to make sure that if someone hands you a letter and they ask you no questions, you should be asking questions. Not all lenders are the same. Not all real estate agents are the same. Make sure you feel connected to the person you're working with because that is extremely important. And I know you brought up North Carolina housing, so I do want to bounce back to that. So it is a first-time home buyer program. There are actually 3 different programs, but the most common that we see, they provide $15,000 and it goes towards your down payment and your closing cost. If you are at the $200,000 purchase price level or less, most of the time you get a check back at closing. So we can kind of finagle things where you can get some money back, or those inspections that Luke was talking about, we can actually have them paid at closing. So let's just say we set your file up and you're getting $1,500 back at closing. Well, what if you got 3 inspections and there were $1,500? Let's pay those at closing for you. So you're not getting anything back, but you didn't have to pay anything out. So the most important thing is that you cannot have owned a primary home in the last 3 years. That's guideline number 1. They partner with conventional VA, FHA, and USDA loans. So we're not putting you in a box when we put you in this program. There are several different programs to partner with this down payment assistance. Your debt to income ratio, so all of your monthly liabilities plus that hypothetical mortgage payment cannot be over 45% of your gross income. So pre-tax gross income, it cannot be more than 45%. You do have to have a 640 credit score. Like popcorn. 640 credit score. So a lot of times people come to us and I pull credit, let's just say they have a 634. They are super discouraged. That's the difference between the lender I'm talking about, the person that's been talking to you. We actually have access to something called a what-if simulator, so I can physically go in, manipulate your credit report, and see how long it's gonna take to get you to that 640. Well, guess what we can do in the interim? While you're getting that score up, you're gonna save money. I'm gonna say, this is what you need to save and have prepared, so when your credit score is good, you can roll.
Just a quick jump in here. So for Guilford County, on the $15,000 down payment assistance, which is by far the most popular and beneficial for most people, I would stretch that up, maybe even up to 250 to 275,000 in some cases. On a purchase price of the house, you really might be coming out of pocket any money to buy a home when it comes to closing costs and down payments. Okay, their income limit, if you have 3 people in the household, is 102,000 in Guilford County. If it's 1 or 2, it's 88,000 per year. So the income limits on these are pretty substantial. Alamance County, where we live, it's 109,000 if you have 3 people in a household, 95,000 if you have 1 or 2.
And that's something, if you're not set on a specific location, if you do not have to be in a specific county, what I like to do is say, hey, you said you would be okay in Whitsett or Greensboro. Let's bounce around the circle of counties and see where you may fit, if you fit, so that you have an option. So if we know that the way you're going to get into a home is through this program, you know where you have to be.
And we can set up multiple, sometimes what we've done for folks in the past, we can set up multiple searches. So if you qualify up to 205,000 in Guilford County, but 220,000 in Alamance County, we can set you up in 2 separate searches so that only the stuff that you qualify for is coming across your screen.
And then for North Carolina housing, the one thing I like to preface up front, that let's just say we were doing a normal conventional or FHA loan, no down payment. I'm gonna need your pay stubs and your W-2s. It's pretty typical to need those. North Carolina housing, if we do any sort of down payment assistance program, they are a little heavier with the documentation, so that's just something to know up front. And a good lender won't ask you for the same pay stubs over and over and over again. So 30 days of pay stubs, 3 years of W-2s, 3 years of tax returns, bank statements, ID.
Also, a good thing about North Carolina housing is you do not need to go to a first-time homebuyer's class and sit for 8 hours. Now, you will have to take a first-time homebuyer's certification.
Yeah.
Might take an hour online, 2 hours online, depending on your case. But a lot of the down payment assistance program, you have to sit in a classroom like this for 8 hours and even longer than some certain programs. And this is not that typical.
So Greensboro Guilford actually has a down payment assistance program as well. I will tell you, I don't, in my personal opinion, I think it's a little more limiting. The credit score requirement is less, but they do not give you as much in down payment assistance, and your income level is much less than North Carolina housing. So it's a beautiful program for some people. A couple of years ago, they would allow you to stack the Greensboro with the North Carolina housing. They don't allow you to do that anymore. So, you know, that's kind of when I saw that fading off. We weren't doing it as much because the North Carolina housing is so much more beneficial. The caveat to the North Carolina housing, and I'll give you my spiel, is the 15,000 stays as a silent second lien. You do not make any payments on this. It stays as a silent second for up to 15 years. When you get to year 10, it falls by 20% every year. So 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 until it's gone. So some people come back to me and say, Melia, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years, much less 15. Well, that's fair. So if homes continue to appreciate by 4 to 6% each year, and let's be honest, the last couple of years, it's been much, much higher. During COVID, it was, I think, between 14 and 16. So if I bought a home for 100,000, it was going to be worth probably 115, 120 the next year. It's not necessarily normal, but it did happen. So if you go to sell this property that you've got the down payment assistance on, if I buy it for 100,000 in year 1, by year 5, you're going to have quite a bit of appreciation. So instead of you having the money up front, let's say you don't have the money up front. In 5 years, when you go to sell it, you make 40, 50,000 off of the home. You can pay back the state of North Carolina with your equity. So nothing ever physically left your pocket, ever.
And one of the things that we'll do too with folks is the first step of your buyer consultation. We're going to say where you want to be, How soon do you need to be there? And how long are you planning on living in this house? Right? If you come into our office and you say like, well, I just need to get into something for a year, but I've probably got 3 or 4 job opportunities that might take me to, Kalamazoo and wherever. We may say, well, okay, let's hold on. We'll look at the whole picture, and because you might be one of the ones where it doesn't make sense to buy, potentially. But as long as you're going to be, historically speaking, all the signs are, if you're going to be in a home for 2 years, at least, you should be fine. And that's assuming that there's going to be even a little bit of a lower appreciation than what we've actually seen. So 2 years is where, what I'll tell people is this: if you move in 2 years, don't come back to me asking to make you money, right? Because it does take time to do that, especially when you factor into the fact that there are some costs associated with the purchase as well.
And keep in mind, on MC housing, let's just say it is a situation where you just have to leave within a year or 2 years, and you don't have that appreciation to pay that $15,000, you're going to be in the negative. North Carolina housing is going to put you in a negative situation. They won't come after it if there's nothing to come after. Does that make sense? That $15,000, they don't have to come after it if the money's not there.
And again, you're not making payments on that $15,000.
It's by far the best down payment system.
Showing up in the background. But again, I have had people, I had one earlier this year call me and say, hey, I moved into this house. Turns out I don't like stairs. And also my neighbor parks his car halfway across my driveway every day and it drives me nuts. And I bought this house, 8 months ago and I want to move. And guess what? They had went over asking and gotten a down payment assistance program. And I had to tell them, I can't get you out right now because I can't do it. Like, you've actually paid more than what the house is worth currently. So you want to just look at the whole board, make sure that, your situation is relatively stable for the most part. Because again, the time, holding real estate over time is a great thing, great way to build wealth. It can also be a bad thing if you're trying to turn real estate really quickly and you haven't planned properly on it.
So what I want to do real quick is just show you how easy it is on a typical phone call for us to verbally pre-approve. Okay, do the calculations for me. So let's just say your income is $50,000 a year, or the household income is $50,000 a year. Okay, so 50K, what's that per month gross? So before taxes each month, you are making $41.66 per month. We take that amount and times it by 45%. 1875 is if you had 0 debts in your name. If you had 0 debts in your name, you could afford a mortgage payment of $1,875. Okay, I'm big. Everybody spends different money out there. Everybody's different. But now let's minus out some debt obligations. Hey, Kyle, we have $100 a month in credit card debt that we pay each month. Okay. We have a $300 car payment.
Okay.
And that's it. 1475 is now what you can afford as a mortgage payment. That's probably going to get you somewhere in the very low $200,000 range. That is what you guys could afford if this was your scenario. Again, depends on the property. Is this outside the city limits or is it in city limits? Because that's going to factor in how much your property taxes are. Is it a manufactured home or is it a single family home? Because that's going to factor in how much your homeowner insurance is. So this is just a very rough estimate on what somebody could afford if this was their scenario. I would ask you your credit score. Well, hey, Kyle, I have a 680 credit score. Okay, in my mind, you could go down payment assistance if you're a first-time home buyer. You could go FHA, you could go conventional, all the other loan programs you qualify. Now, if you tell me, hey, Kyle, I have a 590 credit score, we can't go down payment assistance. We could still probably get you approved, but we're going to be going through an FHA mortgage, which is typically a 3.5% down payment, no down payment assistance. So there's just so many scenarios we could go, but basically you want to start at a 580 and go higher. When you hit that 580 threshold, that's when you start becoming eligible to purchase a home. Really, we want you over a 640, so you're opening up to more products, down payment assistance and stuff like that.
If you've served in the military,
Yeah,
VA program.
That's my niche, is VA.
Yep.
So if you're a veteran, we have some really excellent programs.
Or if you want to live in Saxby-Hall or a place like that. Some of you are still confused, like Saxby-Hall.
Okay.
If you want to live in the country, okay, USDA, you can get 100% financing, USDA, right? So that's great.
Interest rates are a little bit higher on USDA.
So again, they can look and see, okay, well, USDA, that may be another thing too. You may be able to qualify for this conventional, this FHA, and this USDA. And then when you come to us, we can say, all right, well, let's set up a search that will only send you homes that would qualify for USDA. USDA, you have to be outside of certain metro areas, and there's a whole map that you can look for and things of that nature.
What if you got a better?
A better credit score depends, so the thing with North Carolina housing, I keep touching base on that, because this doesn't really be brought up, is it doesn't matter what your credit score is over 640, their rates are locked. What you're getting is what you're getting, and typically, they're at or lower than the current market interest rate.
They're 6.75 for all programs right now, so conventional, VA, FHA, USDA.
But if we mark going down payment assistance, hey, you have a 640 credit score versus a 740 credit score, that could do two things. That could drastically different interest rates, or the cost to get that interest rate would be thousands of dollars. And again, that's not something to scare you about. That's just something we look at on our side. That's why we might say, hey, conventional, even though you qualify for it, is not your best financial way to buy a house. FHA is, and vice versa.
And with that, we've been going a little longer than we planned for. So, Colin and Melia are going to stick around for a minute. I'm going to be around. KJ is going to be around. If KJ invited you, KJ is wonderful. She's got her stuff set up in the back open space. So, and also if Lauren invited you, go back. Here's kind of next steps where you can go. If you feel like, man, I'm ready to go, like, let's go. KJ will be back there. Melissa's up here as well. If Melissa invited you, I'll be up here. We can set up a full buyer consultation. We've gone through most of it today, but we can set up a consultation to get you set up, ready to go. If you want to get pre-approved, again, we'll have the links up here. Thank you for coming. Again, if you have any questions, we will be here. So we are dismissed. Of the value of homeownership.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, just fire them off, we can go and then the application, if you guys decide to fill out an application, it will ask
Slide 3.
you to upload a bunch of documentation. You do not need to upload anything right this second when you first start an application.
You want the calculator?
No,
Might
it's
ask.
after the calculator, before
That?
you were asking about property, and then it kind of after that one.
Oh, you had a search for homes. This one?
The previous one.
And then I downloaded the property app, but there's nowhere to create an account, it just says, it's your information, so I did that, and it's then just a power log.
Okay, we might have to start check one. You put a,
Thanks anyway.
Yeah.
we'll get that.
We still do the financing.